Hi, welcome to our webinar tonight. I'm Tammy Johnson from ESAConnection here with Chris, and we're so excited to collaborate with Kaipod tonight to learn about their Catalyst program, which is a really exciting program, a 28-week-long program that helps educators set up their learning pod in microschools.
Hey everyone, my name is Christine. I work with Kaipod. I run their marketing, and we're really excited to have you guys here. It sounds like we have a lot of great information for you in the next couple of half hour or so here. We have generally, I guess I don't need to go into that. I'll introduce Annie, and Annie will talk more about Kaipod. So Annie, over to you.
Hi everyone, my name's Annie, and I run Kaipod's enrollment and operations. So I might have some good tips for both of you with increasing your enrollment. And with that, I think we can jump right in and get started. So quick agenda for us. We're going to tell you a little bit about Kaipod as a whole, and then dive deeper into the Catalyst program itself, what it looks like, who we're looking for, what it might be to be a Catalyst founder, including the 8 building blocks, or what we call modules, that we're going to go through. And then, of course, we'll have time for a Q&A at the end. So this is our executive team. You've met Christine and myself, but Amr is our founder and CEO. He was the chief product officer at Pearson Online. And while he loves online learning because of the self-paced nature and the flexibility, he also saw a lot of kids learning by themselves. And so he wanted to find a middle ground for families where they could still have that flexibility and self-paced education and curriculum choice, but they could still have socialization and enrichment activity with their peers. And so he left Pearson and founded Kaipod, which we're all very grateful for. And then Ryan is our chief academic officer. He comes from a massive amount of experience in traditional education in Boston, and he helps us with all of our curriculum choice options, curriculum supports for students that might need extra support in math or ELA, and overall student experience. And now a little bit about Kaipod learning as a whole. So we are the largest owner and operator of microschools and learning pods in the United States. We serve students in non-traditional learning. So at our company-owned locations, students can be enrolled in an online school, a homeschool program, a mix and match of multiple different curricula, and then they come to Kaipod part-time or full-time for academic support, enrichment, and socialization with their peers. And what we love is the flexibility. Since they can be part-time, we don't have attendance requirements, and it's really just designed to meet families and kids where they are. Our learning centers are physical spaces, so think retail spaces, commercial locations where students can come and be dropped off by their parents and have a space that looks similar to a co-working space for kids. So you might walk in and be like, this feels a little bit like a co-working space that I could work out of, and the kids love it for that reason. We have different writing spaces, different seating options so that we can accommodate different types of learners. And so in addition to our own locations, we support microschools across 10 states. So this may be our Catalyst founders from our last cohort, or it may also be microschools that are already opened, which we call programs that we support or programs that we manage as well. And those are locations that maybe just need a little bit of help, but they're already open and we can support everything. So, and with that, we're growing. So we're about to launch our next Catalyst cohort. And with that, I'm going to dive a little bit deep into the Catalyst program. So the most important thing is that we want to bring your vision to life. We're not here to tell you what Kaipod does and tell you to replicate it. If you'd like to, wonderful. If you don't want to, also wonderful. The point is that it's your vision, your school, you own it, and it's in your community. Because at the end of the day, as much as we know about opening microschools, we could never open enough to satisfy the demand. And we also don't know your community as well as you do. So we want it to be opened by somebody local who understands what that community wants, because it might be very different than all of the other communities that we currently exist in. And with the Kaipod Catalyst program, you get a massive amount of resources from us. You get specific advice. The 4 of us being our executive team, you can schedule private office hours with all 4 of us. So you could do a deep dive into all of our areas of expertise. If you need help with marketing, you schedule time with Christine herself. If you need help with enrollment, you schedule time with me. And so we're available to all of our founders at any time. And the most important part in my mind is that you get a massive community of people also opening their own micro school. So we have a larger Slack community where all of our founders are members and they can talk about their highs, their lows, their needs, their wants, their dreams, and everything together. And then we also break our founders down into smaller cohorts so that you can really get to know other people that are doing a similar thing as you, where you can share ideas. Maybe you hadn't thought about this curriculum or offering part-time enrollment, and you can chat about it with your peers. And at the end of the day, you're not alone. You're doing something that's pretty scary, starting your own micro school. You know, you're not just opening a small business. You are also responsible for kids and their education. It can be pretty scary. And so with this program, one of our biggest selling points, according to our founders who have just finished our program, is that you get that community where you're not alone and you have people to talk to who are not only there to support you, but they're also doing the same thing that you are. So in terms of the program's like phases or how to join, we do have a pretty short application process. You submit an application. It's a few questions. It's not too daunting. We wanted it to basically just be an application where you can tell us about yourself and what you want to build or what you plan to grow if you already have something in works. I would say the most daunting part about the application is there is a video component. This shouldn't be a stressor. You can truly film it on your iPhone, send us the link. It's really just to get to know you and see how passionate you are about your idea and just get to know the person behind the page of the application. And then we do a short interview. And then if you're accepted into the Catalyst program, we have 28 weeks of free programming. So like I said, it's cohort based. We do break you down into a smaller group cohort, and we have 28 weeks that we'll go into in more detail in a bit that goes through every single thing that you could need. We call them key modules, such as site selection, marketing, curriculum, enrollment, finance, operations. We really break it down week by week. And while that seems like a lot, the program is 28 weeks because it's designed to be part-time. We want you to be able to do this entire program while having a full-time job or while running your already existing tutoring or micro school business. It's not designed to take over your life. Think 5 to 10 hours a week, depending on the week. For example, some of you might not need help with location selection. So you might have fewer hours that week, whereas you might need help with enrollment. So you might boost up your hours for that week. And it just varies based on your idea and where you are in the process. And the goal of the accelerator is to help you launch or relaunch if you want to adjust your program a little bit and kind of boost it up. And with that launch prep, we help you meet local families and create awareness. We help you with open houses and info session support. And then once you're open, step 4 is that post-launch support. And what I really want to drive home here is that we don't just abandon our founders once you open. We're here for the long run. We help you once you're open. We are there for that first 3 years. It's been a lot of studies have been done about not only small businesses, but also micro schools, that first 3 years is the point where you make it or break it. So we want to make sure we're there to support you for those 3 years, and we help you with anything. So we are designed to be your partner for that long run. Once you launch, we transition to that one-to-one support system. And we are here as much or as little as you want. Some of our founders meet with one of us weekly. Some meet with us once a month. It's as much or as little as you'd like, and whatever services that you'd like as well. So we can offer some additional services during that long-term support period, like helping you with grants. I just spotted that question in the chat. So yeah, we can help with that. And that's a perfect example of post-launch and honestly pre-launch support as well. And I think now I'm going to pass it off to Christine.
Yeah, thank you, Annie. I love seeing all these questions in the chat, and I'm excited to answer all of those. Let's dive a little bit into the Catalyst founders, into maybe you guys. What are we looking for in terms of applicants for the program, or what have you seen? And these faces that you see there are actually our actual founders from the last cohort. We didn't just take random people and put them on the picture. These are our founders from the last cohort. Most important, and Annie mentioned this when we were reviewing the applications, most important is that you're passionate. And I heard all of you introduce yourself. There is very clearly that passion, because it takes a lot of energy to start or run your own business. And if you're not passionate about it, then it's probably not for you. So passionate individuals who see the need for flexible small group learning environments in their community and want to take that next step. Very often, a lot of our founders are former educators that have an entrepreneurial spirit to start their own micro school. All of them are, I call them creative visionaries that really see opportunities where others see challenges or problems. And they're leaders. They're leaders that are ready to learn with a supportive community and with us, and ready to jump in and start their own micro school. And I think I've seen all of those elements tonight in your introductions as well. So let's talk a little bit about these founders. And one thing that's really important for us to drive home, and Annie mentioned that earlier, is that while we have Kaipods and we really love our model, we don't think that that is the only model that should be out there. The more education models that are out there, the better. So we want to support you in your own vision and in opening the micro school that you want to open. And what really fascinated us with our first cohort was the diversity of founders and micro schools, and diversity not only in the founders as individuals, but as in the ideas of the micro schools or education environments that they wanted to create. For example, Alexandra from Orlando, she opened Steps Learning Center. She actually already had a tiny learning center / tutoring center, and she saw that there was more need in her community, and she wanted to expand it and grow it into a micro school. So she joined Catalyst and opened up her micro school for neurodivergent learners. So students who might be on the spectrum or facing some other challenges, that she developed a specific program for to help them become independent learners and independent individuals. And then there are Angie and Andrew Nippert from Minnesota. They opened The Gathering in Minnesota, which is kind of a learning pod that functions like a micro school. It's a little bit similar to Kaipod, where the parents choose the curriculum for their kids bring their curriculum, and their micro school offers the academic support, the enrichments, and community engagement and partnerships with local businesses to really build on that community aspect. Some of you might know Jack. Jack is in Arizona. He opened Trinity Arch Prep in Phoenix. It's a faith-based micro school for boys, and Jack really, he has experience. He already launched his own charter school for hundreds of kids, but within this whole experience, he really saw a need for adolescent boys for a much more specific learning environment. So he opened this faith-based micro school for these adolescent boys to really help them in a much more personalized way to learn and to grow into adults. There's Jordan. Jordan is close to Austin, Texas, and he opened a high school his slogan is a high school for highbrow humans. So he's focused on encouraging students to ask questions, to challenge the status quo, to be really inquisitive learners. And last but definitely not least is Latoya. Latoya opened her micro school, the Attune Community School near Atlanta in Georgia. And she's very focused on play-based learning. and on incorporating the environment and the nature into her learning models. So you could tell 5 different founders, 5 different ideas, and all of them opened their micro school. So the big takeaway really is there's no one right way to open your school or your learning pod, and not one right idea, but all ideas, if implemented in the right community where the need is, can thrive and are important. And we really believe in empowering founders to do that, to bring their vision to life. And throughout the Catalyst program, what we do is we'll help you sometimes shape the vision. We'll ask you some hard questions to make sure that you really thought through all of your decisions, but we support you in all of them, so that you can launch your micro school for the biggest possible audience, but remain true to your dream. So let's dive into what we promised you we would talk about, which are what we see the 8 main building blocks for a strong micro school. If you dive into each of them, there's more than just 8, but 8 fits on a slide, and 8 is more digestible than 20. And some of them nicely grouped together. So this is basically also what the content of our Catalyst program is focused around. So for us, it really starts with the school vision. You have an idea, you have a dream, you have a vision of how education should work and should look like in your community. And we help you to kind of put that school vision into words and translate it into a specific plan. The most important thing for you as a founder is to be able to very clearly talk about your vision for a school, because the most important thing is from day one, and that's what we tell all of our founders, is you need to start talking about your school to parents, to friends, to your network, because they'll ask you really good questions, and that will help you refine your vision, your idea. And it's your initial pitch, and you refine it and refine it. So school vision, first building block. And it's probably important, and we'll talk about that a little later, but for each of these modules and big topic, we have resources written up for you where we really share all of our experience. Together, we have probably like 20 years of experience of launching micro schools. And the idea of the Catalyst program is to share that with everyone so that we can bring more education choice to more communities in the US. So we have written up resources, we have checklists after each of these modules to help you work through the things that we think you should be working on. And we have sessions to kind of work through that together with your cohort. The second block is student experience, really thinking proactively about how you are going to build a joyful learning environment where kids trust you, where kids trust each other, where families trust that their kids are well off, that they're learning, that they're thriving. There are a lot of decisions that you can make and need to make along the way as you decide how your learning environment is going to look like and how that student experience and that family experience is going to look like. And we have a lot of content and a lot of tips on that topic. The next one is curriculum. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of curriculum options out there. Our first kind of decision point that we help founders think through is often, is in your micro school, will it be curriculum founder chosen, or will it be family choice, right? Those are 2 buckets. And then within that, we help you through the pros and the cons of each of those. And then Annie talked earlier about Ryan, our Chief Academic Officer. He has worked through dozens and dozens of existing curriculum options, online, offline. He vetted them, and he has a really good kind of overview matrix that he shares with our founders. He asks you a bunch of questions, helps you kind of figure out what would work best for your vision of student experience and learning. And we have a bunch of curriculum partnerships as well. Amar comes from the world of online school. He has a lot of contacts where we can put you in touch with a certain school or a certain curriculum if you choose so. The next topic, scary, scary word, and there's a lot behind this one, compliance. It's definitely always one where we spend a lot of time with our founders. What are the regulations in your state, in your city, in your county? And I know ESAConnection can help you a little bit with that too, which is why we're so grateful that we're working together here. How do you navigate this like web of decisions that you need to make without taking unnecessary like expenses, delaying your school start? Because depending on what decision you make in the compliance area, it has impact on things further downstream in terms of grants, which grants can you accept or can you not accept? If you go for profit or nonprofit, all of those decisions, we kind of help you work through the pros and cons to make the right decision and navigate this web. The next one is financial model. One of the things that's really important for us is that we help our founders launch financially sustainable microschools. So we have a financial model that we use for our locations that we're sharing, where you can kind of plug in certain numbers and see how does that work out. If I hire one teacher or two teachers, can I hire a teacher? How does that impact my tuition? How does this cost of real estate impact my tuition? All of those things to really make sure that you've thought through all of the decisions that you're making along the way as you're developing your school or expanding your business. Location strategy, Annie is the specialist. She has scouted probably hundreds, if not 1,000 locations for us. So she would be your go-to to understand, to make decisions of, am I going to do it in my home? Am I going to do it in maybe a church space? Do I choose a retail space? How do I go about choosing a retail space? How do I go about finding the right space? Because sometimes it's really important if you're on the left side of the highway or the right side of the highway, or how far away are you from a highway? All those things really matter when it comes to those decisions. Something that I forgot to mention, but with the financial modeling, we also help you find out which grants you can apply for and help you with grant writing. We have grant writers that we can refer. And one interesting stat, I saw that I think somebody asked about the VELA grant. Out of all of the founders, and most of our founders from our last cohort applied for the VELA grant, and 100% of the founders of our founders that applied for the VELA grant also got it. So we help a lot with that grant writing and that process, and we're pretty connected with a lot of folks, so it might probably give you a leg up if they know, like, we can plug your names in, we can say, hey, this is our cohort, and if they see those applications coming in, they know this is a little bit pre-vetted, they're part of this program. So obviously no promises, but we had a pretty good rate there last time. Then marketing and enrollment, that's always a big one too, right? How do we help founders to get students to join the micro school? That is my wheelhouse and Annie's wheelhouse. So we'll help you with the very basics of how do you, and I know ESAConnection is there too with you. How do you create a website? How do you create a flyer? How do you put yourself out there? How do you talk to families? And all of those strategies around kind of local activation, and how do you find the families that are looking for the services that you're needing? And then above and beyond that, not only the basics of how do you get in front of families, but also how do you choose the right CRM, so the right software to be able to take all of those leads in, to manage them. How do you approach nurturing them? If you're really already running a business, you might not have enough time to call every single one immediately as the leads come in. So we help you kind of automate that as well. And then lastly, operations. And operations is really kind of a catch-all bucket for so many things, from finding staff if you want to hire them, billing, administration. Annie, help me out here. This is your wheelhouse.
Yes, this is my baby, is operations. While I do love enrollment, I really, really love operations. This is everything left over. Operations is really a bucket to catch everything else, be it how are you going to take attendance? How are you going to communicate with families? What if you're sick and you need a sub? What's the best way to do that? What if the space you're renting has a leak? How are you going to handle that? Evacuation plans, safety plans, literally everything else under the sun that you can think of that you might be thinking like, ooh, this is a question I've had for a long time and I don't know where it falls. It probably falls under operations. And it is truly, we walk through everything. So we walk through anything from taking attendance or recommended software to I will sit with you one-on-one in office hours and you can show me your site on a video walkthrough and we can talk through your evacuation plans or your fire plan or anything like that. So we do it personalized to you because every site is going to have different operations. And that's kind of a broad overview of, it seems like a quick 8, but it's really not. Like Christine said, it really is like 20 that we present very nicely in 8 buckets. But overall, it is a general framework for you to launch your microschool. And like I said earlier, it is designed to be a part-time program. So for some of you that already have operating programs and children coming to your sites, there might be some weeks that you move ahead or work on something that you were presented the week before. Our program is designed to be flexible. So if you already have a location that you're happy with, feel free to scoot on ahead and work on marketing or enrollment that week. There's no stipulations that you have to stay where we are in the program.
Like we said, these 8 kind of blocks are the core of it. And we're working through this basically in a combination of synchronous, asynchronous weeks. So there's always a week where we present a lot of content. Then there's a week where you meet with the cohort. Then there's likely a week where you meet with someone from our team. And we'll make sure to kind of space it out so that it, like Annie said, it's not too much to do at once. Yeah, so 3 basic components of the Kaipod Catalyst program. The first one, and this is really, we surveyed our past cohort and this slide came out of what they said. They basically said, here are the 3 things that were most valuable for us. First is the content. We have talked about the 8 building blocks, but some of the founders said that the templates that we gave them and the checklist and things like that saved them probably weeks worth of developing it themselves and probably $5,000 to $10,000 in lawyer fees and other kinds of fees that they would have spent. And we do that on an ongoing basis for every topic. There are templates, there are resources that we've written up and software that can help you. But there's more than just content. And that was something else that they also mentioned. What was really, really impactful and valuable to them was the coaching, the one-on-one kind of small, very intimate, let's go and solve my problem kind of sessions with Annie, with Amar, with me. That was really helpful for them and helped them to kind of learn how to navigate certain problems, certain issues, and to build a really sustainable, excellent school. And like we already talked about, we help with fundraising, with grant applications. We have a network of grant writers that can also help with that. And then third, and this to me was surprising, I would have thought that the content would be it, but the community was something that they deeply valued as well, a community of peers that are in the same journey with you. So building a microschool is unfortunately not yet something that millions of people are doing, hopefully at one point, but right now it can be a very lonely endeavor as you're out there trying to figure out how to do these things. And it can be hard to be under this pressure of what do I do next and how do I do it. And our founders really loved having that group of peers that they consistently met with to either cheer them on, to ask them the hard questions, to get back on track, or to share a success with. That if you're not in the process of launching a microschool, you might not know how exciting it is to get that call from a family that might want to enroll, or to get that visit to your school. And all that together is there's a pretty cool fact. Obviously, we just launched our first cohort, or finished our first cohort, so it's small numbers, but nationwide, there's an average of 10% of the people who want to start a micro school and kind of go on that endeavor actually end up starting one. From our last cohort, out of all of the applicants that applied, 60% launched their micro school. So that's I think a big kind of testament to the support, the community, the content, and the coaching that we deliver. And because we already talked about finances, we're not only helping with the grant writing, but we also, and this is new this year, for the first time have a partnership with a large bank that is willing to provide micro school loans. So we've kind of worked with them, explained them what micro schools are and how they work, and showed them how they work for us. And they're willing to meet with founders. Obviously, they make decisions on a one-to-one basis, depending on every person and their situation. But if you're interested about that, even if you don't join the program, feel free to email Annie or I. But that's something that we also added to it. While it is important for us, and we encourage and tell our founders that ideally you launch a micro school without taking a loan or having a grant, we also know that having that money, having a little bit of money as you get started is definitely very, very helpful, and can help a lot along the way. Yeah, so I think the final takeaway, and then we can start taking questions, is really that we wanted to design with Catalyst a really high quality kind of wraparound program that supports micro school founders to bring their vision to life and increase their chances of launching. Yeah, and I think that's basically it. And I'm ready to take on any questions that you guys have.
So we have a ton. Tom, you want to take this with me? You want to we'll share. You can ask the first question. I'm just all the way to the chat because I want you to get some action here. You want to ask the first question?
Sure. So you started touching on the Vela grant. I know the window for the next one for the micro grants actually closes, I think, on Monday of next week. I've just started outlining and getting prepared. I mean, if I were to apply to be one of the founders, is it reasonable to assume that I can make that Monday deadline? I mean, if I get the application in, would be able to get started, or should I get ready to wait for February or March? So I guess that's my first question.
I don't want to make any promises, Tom. I don't want to sit here and be like, absolutely. But, we review applications and admit on a rolling basis. So the way it works is your application comes in, we review them same day. And then once we invite somebody to an interview, if you book your interview sooner rather than later, and everything goes well, I would be not surprised if our team makes time to review your application before the cohort starts. I won't make promises, but we definitely understand that having that early would be beneficial. So we would be happy to expedite that process.
Cool, thank you.
Yeah.
I do have other questions too.
Yeah, yes, you do. I was going to say, keep going, Tom. Let's get all yours knocked off.
So Jack is in my introduction, I talked about somebody up in Scottsdale. It's actually Jack. So with the Trinity Art, and he sent me your way, which is why I'm here. He definitely has a non-secular way of handling things. I hope I didn't just throw him under any kind of bus, but is that's something that Kaipod is supportive of? I know with Out School, they say stay to the center line. There's no religion. There's no bias or anything like that. But particularly in my part of Arizona, we do lean in one direction or the other, and I think that a lot of families would be happy to hear that there is a little bit of a point of view that matches theirs at home. So again, with the nodding, I assume that sounds like that's something we support.
Yeah, with our program, that is the important part to us. We support you in whatever the vision for your school is. So it can be secular, non-secular, we do not, that is not our business. We support you in launching that. And like you said, in your part of the country, you think that that families appreciate a certain way of doing it, then that makes a lot of sense to us. And that's what we want to support, right? If you think that there's a demand from the parents, then absolutely, that's what you should be doing. Yeah. So there's no stay in the center. Go wherever you want to go.
Okay, great. And then I think Chris asked several of the questions I was planning to ask. And the one that I was thinking of is skipped my mind. Curriculum. Chris had asked, do you have an in with certain curriculum providers? Is that something that's passed on to us as Kaipod founders?
It depends on which curriculum you're interested in. So for example, at our company-owned locations, we offer Lexia, Zern, Common Lit, and Khan, which is complimentary anyways, but we have bulk purchased a lot of these programs, and we sometimes have extra seats. So for example, Jack is currently using one of those programs for his students on our seat because we have extra seats available for some of our founders. So if it's a curriculum that we're also using, that makes it very easy. And then if it's a curriculum that we're not, another founder might be interested in doing a bulk purchase with you. They talk about that all the time on our Slack channel. And there's some curriculum, to add on to your last question, that may have a religion component, and they want to go in together and buy the package and then split it amongst themselves. And so that's a great way that our community comes together to support each other.
Tom, did you have any other questions you wanted to?
Yeah, so you see I'm in my classroom right now. I'm also on my home property, which is governed by an HOA. So Chris asked a question about the HOA. In terms of insurance and that kind of thing, I think I've got that covered, to get supplemental insurance, but also my homeowner insurance will cover everything that goes on here. How do we walk that fine line with the HOA? Everything from parking and that kind of thing. Go ahead.
That would be under my department. Every HOA has such different rules. I would actually need to review your HOA documents and see, but that is something we do. I've received all of those personal documents and I've reviewed them myself, and then I help the founder navigate it. And I also am more than happy on hopping on a Zoom call with them and walking it through with you, because sometimes it's as simple as like a slight change of wording. And they, when they, for example, an HOA might not know what a microschool is. They just hear school. So they might think, oh my gosh, there's 100 kids coming in and out of this house at 8 a.m. and 3 p.m., but that's not what's happening. So sometimes you just need to walk them through it. And so that's something that we help everyone with on an individual basis. In my mind, it's the same thing as a commercial lease property rules agreement. You just kind of have to walk by and follow, you might have to do drop off and pick up at different times to accommodate. So we can work on that one-to-one to make sure that it's personalized to you.
Hey, Tom, I did want to just kind of speak up here a little bit on your homeowner's insurance. Be careful about that, because normally your homeowner's insurance will not cover, like if there's something that happens as part of your business, they'll exclude you in a heartbeat. So, really maybe double check that and make sure you got a business operators policy, a BOP. And because I think if you don't, you might get blindsided there if you have an issue.
And definitely follow up with Chris on that too, because he's really looked into that and researched that, because this is a huge need, the whole insurance thing. And I think that's amazing that Kaipod offers that support, because when Chris and I are talking with educators and stuff, that is a huge issue, dealing with the HOA and dealing with the city requirements and learning how to navigate that. And even you just offering you could just do drop-offs before, after, earlier, and that could be all the difference and relieve that hassle from the HOA being on because that is a huge issue. So thank you for doing that, because that's a really challenging one for a lot of educators to navigate. So that's awesome, you guys support in that area.
So I was just there's a couple more questions. Tom, did you have any more before I get going?
I think that's satisfied. I'd be interested to hear some questions that I haven't thought of though.
So this is probably an Annie question. How do you help teachers find and afford school rental space?
Great question. It really depends on their vision and their financial model. So the first thing we do is we narrow down, are you looking for home-based, what I call unique space, which could be a church space, a YMCA, a group that you have a connection to. I even helped one of our founders. They live in a gated community and the HOA has a central meeting space, and we brainstormed if they could meet there. And then the lastly, and obviously most expensive, being commercial or retail. And so we walk through all the different options. We look at their financial model, and based on their tuition that they're charging, and sometimes making sure that it fits in their budget, it is reasonable. And actually a lot of benefits come out of having a commercial or retail space. You know, basic work-life separation is the number one. And so we work through, you know, when you're starting to get enrollments, if you're going to move into a commercial space, one of the best things that I can recommend to anybody, that this is not a secret of the Kaipod Catalyst program, is if your families love you and love your vision, ask them to submit a deposit before you start. And that gives you your first month and your deposit, and then the cash will come in as you are doing ongoing billing. So there's ways to adjust your financial model to make the space affordable without having to have it be a huge burden. And what I will say as well, and this is just rule of life, it's the same thing if you're looking for a rental for yourself, never look above your budget. You will fall in love with a space that is out of your budget right now, but it might not be out of your budget next year. So keep it in mind, keep it on, like, bookmarked on your browser, but don't go look at it in person, because you probably will fall in love with it if it's something that you want that badly.
A couple of more practical questions around that. And I know everybody's market's different, but rule of thumb, what size school are we talking about? 10 to 20, 12? Like what are you guys on an average? What are we looking at for a microschool size?
I can tell you what we look for as an example. So at Kaipod owned locations, we have a maximum of 24 students a day, and we have 2 educators on site. So think 26 people.
Oh,
we look for spaces between 1,500 to 2,000 square feet.
And what should somebody be thinking as a rough budget? Okay, I know I need to rent space. What do I need to be thinking about in my projection? Like, and I know that's a loaded question, but just give us a range. Like, but a rule of thumb kind of range, what would you?
I mean, it really depends on where in the country they are. Like, if you're looking in Scottsdale, Arizona, you're looking at $25 to $30 a square foot. If you're looking in a rural part of Minnesota, you're looking at $10 a square foot.
Okay, so that's good. That gives people something to kind of, you know, eyeball and sort of pencil in, you know, as they're kind of putting their rough plan together. So that's helpful. Thank you.
Yeah.
I know I put you on a limb there, Annie. Sorry about that.
It's something I don't like to answer without a lot of information, because I don't want to get anybody, like, we had a founder in our cohort who's in a suburb of San Francisco, and one day he heard me say, "Oh, $10 a square foot," and I was like,
not gonna happen.
Not happening for you.
Yeah, so $10 to $40 a square foot, depending on your location, is probably what you're looking at. Okay, I think that's really good. And then my last question was, and I know this is a little bit of a loaded question, but some of the ways, like, both of these folks need help finding students. I don't know if they're Kaipod people, but are there some tips and tricks like that you're willing to give out there to the masses? And like, how do you find people for your micro school?
Yeah, I can take that. So for our founders, I think there's a couple of ways that we encourage them to do it. We always say, talk to anyone and everyone about your school, right? It's a lot of things happen word of mouth. Make connections once you know where you're going to be, make connections with the local businesses that are around, with the museums, the bounce houses, the donut shops, like everyone around you. A lot of it is word of mouth. So if the local donut shop owner knows you, and then he knows 20, 30, 40 local families, there's a good chance that if he overhears them say something, they recommend it. We do, and ESAConnection is big in that as well. We do recommend join your local Facebook groups, especially when it comes to parenting, to school choice, to making decisions. Parents are really in these groups, helping each other, making recommendations, asking questions. So any local Facebook group you can find and be a part of, and just be a helpful member. It's not about blasting it out there, but really being a helpful member, answering families' questions, and if it's applicable, mentioning your business, really, really helpful. Or if you have a business already, like you guys do, share some pictures of a good day where kids have fun, where they're doing an enrichment, where they're learning someone. I'm a parent. Parents love nothing more than seeing happy, engaged, learning kids. And then it's also, and ESAConnection is your partner in that as well. It's also about local events, right? If parents love events where their kids learn something and get to be excited for the afternoon or for the morning where they're entertained, and then that frees parents' minds up to actually think about, is this a great learning environment, or I really like talking to this person. And that helps a lot. So that's also what we do. And then as part of the Catalyst program, we help you kind of think through how to hold open houses at your spaces. With already running businesses, you can think about maybe hosting a Friday morning enrichment that you invite local homeschooling co-ops to, so they can get to know you, they learn more about you. That's what we do in our pods all the time. And then Kaipod has a marketplace. So once you have your school up and running, we'll be happy to add you to our marketplace, because for us, it's really about showing more choice. So we'd be happy to have you there as well. Those are some of the basic tips that I would give. Obviously, you can spend a lot of money on advertising. I don't necessarily recommend that. I think starting local, starting organic, and having conversations and making connections is the most important thing.
Yeah, fantastic. So I would just say too, like this is one of the big needs that we're hoping to fill with ESAConnection. I don't think it's any coincidence that two of those people on that list are that are Kaipod, Catalyst success stories already, are members of our network. So we're hoping that that we can help them a lot with filling up their classes and reaching out to parents and things of that nature. We also have a Build Your Business tool that we can help. And I think, Christine, I think you and I talked about that a couple of weeks ago, that might be something, at least in Arizona today. You can follow those steps and get your LLC, set up your business, get a website up and running. And then, you've got, a nice company like Kaipod to partner with you and kind of take, get it across the finish line. So we just really appreciate you guys coming on here, talking to folks. And again, I know we don't have a lot of people on tonight, but there will be a lot of people that see this over the next few months. And it's just nice to know that they have a partner, whether they're they go with you or not. Like, we're all in this together, and we just really appreciate you guys coming on and sharing. And Tammy, I want to turn it back over to you, so you get to kind of close this out and finish this up. But I just want to say thank you to everybody that joined us tonight.
Thanks for the great questions.
Yeah, was there any more questions or any last comments or thoughts? I did put in the application link into the chat, and I believe that the deadline, was October 13th. Yes.
Yep.
I got buried in Chris's and Tom's questions. They were kind of competing against who is going to ask the most questions, but you guys did ask really good questions. So yes, the application link's in there, so definitely go check that out. And it's due October 13th because you guys are starting up the next cohort in November, correct? Awesome. Well, thank you again so much for being
Tammy,
here.
I'm sorry, I did want to add, the way Vela works is like you can keep, I think they go like every couple of months, right, Annie? So you can keep applying. This isn't the year deadline. They still have more deadlines coming up, I think.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Annie and Christine, for being here tonight and educating everyone about the Catalyst program, because before you guys reach out to Chris and I, we had no idea that you guys had this service. We knew you guys were Learning Pod microschools, but we didn't know you had a training program for free that you offer educators in order to be able to support them and be successful in their microschool learning pod. Because like you said, it's such a huge new area. but it's still new. Nobody knows how to do it. So thank you so much for what you do and for allowing us to share this information. And